This man saved pennies for 45 years, this is what he got in return. It's easy to avoid paying much-minded pennies. You don't have to be particularly wealthy to see that it's quite difficult to make a single cent go very far. Especially with inflation increasing more and more every year, and while plenty of people still keep a penny jar in the house for 45 years. Stephen Andrews of Florida was taking that practice to an entirely different level. After filling up over a dozen 5-gallon drums with pennies, he decided it was time to cash in. So, he started carting the pennies down to the bank. It took the bank more than 5 hours to count both his bounty, but the most amazing part is what they told him. When they were done, both got some seriously unexpected news about his savings. It's not always easy to save money, but one way that some people try to stretch their dollars is by collecting their coins in a piggy bank. Sure, it might not seem like much initially, but eventually that loose change can really add up. Even with that knowledge, though, it can be difficult to feel that same way about pennies. After all, not only are they the least valuable form of American currency still being circulated, but with inflation they're being used less and less often. Not only that, but you may have heard that it actually cost more than a penny to make a penny. It may sound crazy, but it's absolutely true. In fact, the United States lost approximately $55 million in 2013 from producing pennies. Yet, that doesn't change the fact that if you save enough of just about any form of currency, including pennies, for a long enough period of time throughout your life, you're eventually going to earn a significant payload. That's why for more than 4 decades of his life, Stephen Andrews saved every single penny that he could possibly find. The coin reminded him to pray and give thanks. I became convinced that spotting a lost or dropped penny was an additional God-given incentive reminding me to always be thankful, said Stephen. There have been days where I failed to pray, and more often than not, a lost or dropped penny would show up to remind me. He had to know that they weren't going to be worth much, but that didn't stop him from trying to be as thrifty as he could. One could imagine that Stephen, a Florida resident, must have been proud of himself for making such an effort to literally save every penny that he could. It certainly had to take a great deal of commitment and restraint. He saved the pennies in big 5-gallon jugs, and over the years they began to accumulate, as you might expect from something like that. They really started to take up space. It was getting to the point where the amount of coins Stephen had was unmanageable. That must have been why one day, 45 years after he originally started collecting pennies, he decided that enough was enough, started carting his pennies over to the bank. It was finally time to cash in, and the whole process took over 5 hours. What happened when he made it to the bank, though, blew everybody's mind. They must have known that with that many pennies, he would have had a hefty payout, but nobody could have predicted exactly how much they'd all be worth. During the 5-hour process of counting the pennies, the plastic jugs were hacked open with an axe and hammer. The pennies were then poured into the coin machine with small plastic buckets. Stephen sat next to the machine watching his collection go down the counter, and the bank workers come in to change the coin bag every 20 minutes, since the coin machine bags need to be changed after every $50. That was quite the payday. After all those years of literally penny pinching, hopefully Stephen was able to enjoy his earnings. He certainly deserved a nice dinner round, a fancy glass of champagne, or even a luxurious vacation. You won't believe how much his coin collection was worth. His coin collection ended up being a sum of $5,136.14. That's about 1,000 times better than just finding an old dollar bill in your pocket. We should all start saving our pennies right now. Who know what amount we could be saving and probably have a vacation of our own.